Hi everyone, welcome back to BS Rambles, and the topic of today's video is the top AOE damage heroes in the game. These are the heroes that you pick if you want to top the damage charts, creating pressure on the enemy's healers and punishing opponents when they group up too closely with powerful AOE attacks. Now we know that the damage charts aren't necessarily the best indicator of how effective a player is being, but these heroes can post such ridiculous numbers that their impact is undeniable, both on the scoreboard and on the battlefield. The following list is my top 6 picks for AOE damage heroes that create massive amounts of general pressure for the other team during teamfights. They might not necessarily be doing burst damage or finishing kills, but they're creating opportunities for their teammates to do that for them by weakening the entire enemy team. If you do enjoy this video, please throw me a subscribe and join me on stream on Monday and Tuesday nights. Now, without further ado, we'll get into the list. Number 6, Mephisto. Mephisto is HotS' newest hero at the time that I'm making this video and is currently creating waves in Hero League. I personally have taken to banning Mephisto in my games because I've seen too many carry games through doing massive damage to the entire team. Recently I saw one post over 100,000 damage in my Master League game. Mephisto is also unique in this list in his ability to dive the backline. Most mages find their role in the Nexus as sort of backline nukers, finding a balance between staying as far back from the fight as possible while getting off their spells. But Mephisto is a mage that dives into the fray, dealing damage at relatively close range by AOE damage dealer standards. So with this kind of offensive power, insanely high AOE damage, and the ability to get into the fray with little regard for his own health bar, and an ultimate that literally hits every hero in the match for pure guaranteed spell damage, why is Mephisto only at number 6? It's because Mephisto doesn't bring much utility to a fight that helps his team in other ways. His damage is insane, but it really just is pure damage. It's part of the reason why I like his less popular ultimate, Durance of Hate. At least through that ultimate he provides some utility to his team. In addition to that, I think part of Mephisto's power is derived from the fact that we haven't got used to how to play against him. He's a lot easier to play as than he is to play against. Staying inside his lightning ring and waiting to focus him until after he has used his teleport are things that most players are forgetting to do amidst all the chaos that he creates on the battlefield, and Mephisto's stats are a little bit inflated because of it. At number 5 we have Azmodan. Azmodan is still a beast following his most recent rework and is fully capable of posting monstrous hero damage numbers. A good Azmodan will finish a game at the top of the charts for experience contribution, siege damage, and hero damage, all by wide margins. He's very unique in that his place on this list basically comes from one single ability, Globe of Annihilation. Its huge radius and giant range might not feel like much of a problem in the early game, but that's when Azmodan mains are busy getting globe stacks, creating lane pressure, and biding their time, because by the time that late game rolls around, Globe of Annihilation can easily start chopping through 30% of squishier heroes' health. With the huge range and radius of the ability, by the late game Azmodan is an oppressive presence for teams both in and out of teamfights. One single good Globe of Annihilation can easily sway an entire fight, or even hit an enemy team hard enough that they have to rethink engaging a teamfight altogether, because so much of their team's health has been lost, maybe without even having seen Azmodan. His only drawback is that he really does live or die by the Globe of Annihilation. Its relatively long cooldown means that you likely only will get 1 or 2 off through the course of a teamfight, so if you don't get a ton of value out of those, you're going to find yourself feeling unimpactful, and it's this all or nothing nature of Azmodan that has him stuck in the number 5 spot. At number 4 we have Kael'thas. Kael'thas is the quintessential fire mage. High damage abilities on medium cooldowns, providing huge bursts of damage and the potential to nuke entire teams if they are unfortunate enough to find themselves clumped together. He really does fulfill the fire mage rule perfectly, and while his utility is limited to a single stun, he can use that stun to guarantee that his flame strike lands, which grants him admittance into a club that is rare for an AOE damage hero to be allowed into, and that is the single target deletion club. If Kael'thas lands his gravity lapse, he can guarantee flame strike lands, apply living bomb, and if he wants, he can add a pyroblast to that combo, which will delete any squishy hero that doesn't have a way to negate the delayed damage coming their way. Kael'thas flame strike is such a huge chunk of damage that it can be completely oppressive to an enemy team that finds themselves getting hit by it too frequently. His living bomb ability also provides both damage and hilarity as it forces enemies to run away from each other or take massive damage through spreading the bomb amongst their teammates. If a team doesn't learn quickly to spread out when facing Kael'thas, they are sure to lose the game amidst a frustrating chaotic flurry of fiery explosions. It sounds simple enough, but even in Master League, Kael'thas players thrive in the chaos of their opponents' positioning errors. At number 3 we have Nazeebo. Nazeebo is another unique hero on this list because he isn't really classified as an AOE damage dealer. He's definitely a specialist, at least in the early game he is. Nazeebo starts off his game as a very modest AOE damage dealer, providing great zoning with his frogs and zombie wall and decent focus DPS with his spiders. But as the game progresses, Nazeebo evolves into this absolute monstrosity of a hero that is capable of having such a tremendous impact that often there is a notion that if you let Nazeebo stay in a game until level 20, he wins. Nazeebo's overall win percentage on HotS logs is just below 50%, but the win rate of Nazeebos that get to choose a level 20 talent averages out to just about 65%. That type of power spike is a one of a kind in Heroes of the Storm. The majority of players will take the level 20 talent Vile Infection, which makes his auto attacks apply an extremely powerful damage over time to any hero that he hits. Combined with a health pool that is huge relative to other mages, he can get into fights and pump through his damage at such a high rate that he wins 65% of the time that it's allowed to happen. If this list was for heroes who dominate in the late game, Nazeebo would be number 1. But since we're talking about overall performance of AOE heroes, Nazeebo is going to stay at the not-so-modest number 3 slot, where he can remind us that if you carry him to the late game, he will carry you to the win. At number 2 we have Gul'dan. Gul'dan is the game's purest AOE mage. He is designed for the single purpose of creating pressure on the enemy team through massive, unfocused damage that will cut down entire teams if they linger in fights for too long. He has a spammable AOE wave ability in Fell Flame that guarantees effective damage in any fight, alongside a higher cooldown, more punishing ability in Corruption, and between these two abilities, Gul'dan's damage throughput is a cut above any other hero in the game. His damage is so consistently high that when you pick Gul'dan, you are almost guaranteed to top the damage charts in that game. He brings his own sustain to the fight with his Drain Life and Life Tap abilities, which guarantee that he is present and ready for any engagements, and able to continue to push damage through even in the longest teamfights. In fact, the longer that a teamfight goes, the more likely that Gul'dan's side will come out on top. So you think the solution would be to burst him down, right? Well, through talents like Healthstone and his ultimate Horrify, which is a large AoE fear, you might find that bursting Gul'dan down is more difficult a task than what you'd expect from a high damage mage. Gul'dan's only drawback is that through dominating this niche of AoE damage to such a high degree, he completely lacks on options for focus DPS. When it comes time to focus down a single hero, Gul'dan's damage can feel slow and lackluster. With no options for burst damage, he really does require longer engagements for his damage to shine. Now, before number 1, I just want to interject quickly and say if you're enjoying this video, please do subscribe for more videos just like it, and please do come visit me on Twitch on Monday and Tuesday nights. Now back to the list. At number 1, we have Jaina. Jaina is taking the number 1 slot because she has so many of the strengths of all these other AoE damage dealers and so few of the drawbacks. Her potential for AoE damage on enemies who are too close together is huge and comparable to Kael'thas. Her abilities flow together to provide a great balance of both sustained damage and burst damage when she needs it. Blizzard is a perfect balance between burst and sustained damage. Its long duration guarantees effectiveness as both a zoning and damage tool. Her Cone of Cold ability provides a sudden snap of damage when she needs burst, and her Frostbolt ability is spammable, which keeps her effective at all times. She also belongs to the one-shot deletion club with Kael'thas, except she can land hers on multiple targets. It might not be 100-0 type of burst, but it certainly is enough to guarantee your team is able to follow up when you factor in that her combo has massive utility attached to it. Which brings me to the real differentiating factor of Jaina above all these other AoE damage dealers, and that is her utility. All of Jaina's abilities apply slows to affected enemies, and often the affected enemies consist of the entire enemy team. This type of utility in the kit of a damage dealing hero is insanely valuable. Jaina takes this number 1 slot because she has sustained AoE damage. burst AoE damage, and utility, which sees her shine through so many different situations that you're basically guaranteed to not go wrong with a Jaina on your team. And there you have it, my list of the top 6 AoE damage heroes. Now I know there are some that I left out, so please let me know who you think should have made this list in the comment section. Or if you think the order should be different, I'm sure at least some of you take issue with Mephisto being at the bottom of the list, so let me know about that as well. If you enjoyed the video, please do subscribe to my channel, as it's still quite small. Each subscription goes a long way, and if you want to go the extra mile to help me by making more people see the video, you can like it as well. Lastly, I hope to see some of you joining me on my Twitch stream on Monday and Tuesday nights, as if I haven't hammered that home enough in this video. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and have a terrific week.